Well, the Trade Minister, Don Farrell, he joins us live from Canberra now. Minister, good to have you with us this morning. So we're seeing information this morning about negotiations that are still underway. You talked about this yesterday, and critical minerals are being used as a carrot still. Where are negotiations at right now?
Well, nice to talk with you, Peter. Look, we will continue to discuss the issue of tariffs with the United States. Obviously yesterday we got the news about the 10% tariff on Australian goods. That's a bad decision by the United States. We want to continue discussions with the United States government to get that 10% tariff reversed. As you know, when we came into government 3 years ago, we had $20 billion worth of tariffs and impediments imposed on us by the Chinese government. I see yesterday as the start of another process with the United States government where we sit down with them coolly, calmly, constructively, and work through what they think are the issues between our two countries, and as we did with China, get those tariffs removed.
Okay, but can you confirm that as negotiations take place right now, that critical minerals are on the table?
The Prime Minister has already made that clear, Peter, and he'll, in the days and the weeks ahead, be talking more about that. We are, in a sense, the lucky country. We've got the largest or the second largest reserves of all of the critical minerals in the world. We've recently reached agreement with the European Union. We couldn't get a free trade agreement with them, but we did get an agreement on critical minerals. Okay. And we're prepared to talk about that with the United States. Yeah, no,
I remember speaking to you at the time about the EU deal that ran dead. I'll get to that in a moment, but just one more here. How open is the US and your counterparts in the US right now to giving us an exemption at some point in the next few months?
Look, that's going to be the subject of the negotiations, Peter. In my discussions with the United States Trade Representative, Mr. Greer, he made it clear that the United States would be prepared to have discussions once the figure was announced, the 10% figure was announced. So I'm going to hold him to his word on that, Peter, and we will continue to discuss. One of the things that has been difficult in this process is just working out what it is the Americans actually want out of this process. We saw yesterday that Norfolk Island, a very important part of Australia, was hit by a 29% tariff. It's part of Australia. It should have been subject to a 10% tariff. That suggests to me, Peter, that the whole process here has been rushed. There's now an opportunity, now that we know what the figure is. I honestly thought the figure was going to be higher, and you know, we had been thinking that the figure might go as high as 20%. Well, it ended up being 10%, okay. Still too high, but it gives us the opportunity now to go back to the Americans and say, look, what is it that you want out of this relationship? We're not going to do what Mr. Dutton has done and threaten our national security by bringing defence and national security issues into this. We're going to have a sensible, constructive discussion with the Americans to remove those 10% tariffs.
Further to Peter Dutton's point, do you think if a Trade Minister was a member of a Liberal Party government that he would have had more success?
Look, let's go back to the China situation, Peter. Under the former government, which included Mr. Dutton as a member, we inherited $20 billion worth of tariffs and trade impediments. Bit by bit, over the last 3 years, we removed all of those tariffs and impediments. The former government, which included Mr. Dutton, didn't get a single tariff removed, didn't get a single impediment removed. We've actually got the track on the board here, Peter, and the last of those products was crayfish just before Christmas last year, and we got the full $20 billion of product back. Now, can I talk about that $20 billion figures? Because the total trade between Australia and the US last year was $23 billion. So in this last 3 years, we have got back almost as much as is the value of the entire United States trade situation.
Minister, last year the Prime Minister said Trump scared the crap out of him, or words to that effect. Are you or him any less scared now?
Look, I'm not scared of President Trump. I think what we now know is if he says something, we should assume that that's what he's going to do. But look, my job as Trade Minister is to represent the best interests of Australia, to get these tariffs removed, to negotiate. We've got the track record on the board for negotiations. That $20 billion back from China. We've negotiated new free trade agreements with India, with the United Kingdom, with the United Arab Emirates. Next Tuesday night, I'm talking with my European counterpart.
Okay.
They understand that the world has changed. We need to find, if we're going to sell less product into the United States, we need to find new markets. We've been doing that, but we've got to beef that up. We've got to do it, sorry,
pardon the pun.
Use that term, but pardon the pun. We have to do more with this. I mean, why do the Americans buy so much of our meat? Well, it's a good product and it's a good price.
And wine for that matter
other countries, too. Oh yes, we have some beautiful wine.
Yeah.
And look, can I just talk about that wine issue? When China imposed the 220% tariff on Australian wine, that killed our trade to China stone dead the next day. Now, what the Americans have done here have applied a 10% tariff. So big difference between 10% and 220%. But also what the Americans have done is applied a 20% tariff to all of our competitors in Europe. So French wine, Italian wine, Spanish wine is now all 10% more expensive than Australian wine. So we have to keep this in perspective when we're looking at what's been done here.
Don Farrell, it's good to have you with us this morning. You are the deal maker, and hopefully you can get a deal here. If not now, down the track, we shall see. Whichever government may be after May, we'll have to wait and see. But thank you, Don. We'll chat to you again soon.